board games, role-playing games, painting and assembling models and miniatures. These are my hobbies. I'm Howard Blues, one half of the mildly popular, somewhat watchable, always entertaining podcast, Beer, Blues, and BS. I'm inviting you to join me on my journey through the hobby. Also, as I rebuild my cave of wonders.
Hello everyone, Howard Blues here. Welcome back to Howard's Cave of Wonder. I'm going to be honest, I have maybe started this video 4 or 5 times now, and part of it is there's so much I want to say about the topic of burnout and this series of videos and all of that, and so trying to figure out the order in that without, especially because I do these on the fly, it's been difficult. But here's the thing. I wanted to talk about burnout and about videos, and because to me there's this thing that really stops a lot of miniature painters, and there's a term out there. It's called the pile of shame, right? It is the miniature painter's collection of miniatures that have yet to be painted. You guys, if you watch currently, get to see what a lot of mini painters would call my pile of shame, whether it's the stuff here on the pegboard or on the shelves, both sides. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff that I could paint and could work on and all of that. So some would say, gosh, Howard, you have a huge pile of shame. But see, I've never liked pile of shame. It implies that I should, for some reason, feel bad that I've collected all of this and that I'm eagerly excited to paint all of these things. Nah, I like a different term. I like to call this my pile of opportunity, because there's opportunities for wonderful painting experiences in all of these. And I tend to collect things. Sometimes it's for games that I want to play, like Monsterpocalypse. Sometimes it's just a really cool miniature, like this hobgoblin here. Maybe it's part of the Reaper Christmas set that I collect and paint for my wife. Maybe it's just a crazy cool model, like this piggyback officer, which is a giant pig riding a guy, because it's weird, because it's fun. But it's opportunity for me to paint and have fun with it and relax. And so to me, it's a pile of opportunity. My actual pile of shame, I do have what I call a pile of shame. My pile of shame is anything that I have started but haven't finished. And I'm going to show it to you. Don't worry. It's not that big. So here it is. It takes up the front, I'd say third, of this single shelf. It's not even then. It ends in about where my hand is. This is it. That's all of it. You might go, wow, it's not a lot. And you're right. And some of these, it's just different things. Some, like the vampire girl here, is a miniature I started before the move, and so she got packed up. Kind of the same with the goblin and the dwarf priestess and the monk there. I started them, did not get too much further on it. The zombies here are practically done. They need a little bit of highlighting, some blood splatter, but part of the reason I stopped was it's gonna be a little hard to see, but I found that I had more of them. You can kind of see them grouped around in here, and so I'm like, oh, I should hold off on these until I get these and do the whole thing. And so you hear that. Some of them are just projects that I started and then stopped, like the Christmas Dragon, the Deep Ones. These two guys from Super Dungeon Explorer, which I was going to try and do comic book styling on, and I got the kind of like the base coat done, and then I just haven't come back. So it's just terrain that, again, these two coffins are before the move. Same with this guy. This lovely piece is just actually all scrap. As I've been modeling and basing, I just kind of takes, like, there's a piece of sprue and just other bits and bobs. I just kind of glue them all together in this kind of pile, and I'm just making a barricade, and I just need to slap some paint on it, and that's done. This is a piece. It's supposed to be the escape pod from Star Wars, although not official. And the problem I had here was the lip on this base. Like, I started painting it, and then I got really annoyed that, like, how thick that was. I'm like, well, I kind of want it to be like half of that, so I need to rethink that piece. Sometimes, though, I should talk about the mouselings back here. These Space Marine mouselings. This guy is actually done. I just have him out to reference so I could match the paint scheme on this guy. But I got a little ways on that and then got distracted by a different project. And that sometimes happens. You get distracted by a different project. Or sometimes you just get intimidated. These guys, these 4 zombie trolls, along with even this guy, this orc chieftain, are all for a game down here, Dungeon Saga, that I have been slowly working on painting. You can see many of the undead faction painted, but I have a lot left to paint. They're really at just kind of like the highlight and finishing portion. And for some reason, like, that takes a lot of time, and I just have not had the time to do those. In here, we get into a bunch of the Riot Quest models, and they're kind of currently my project that I'm working on, but I didn't want to necessarily have them all on my desk taking up space. So they're kind of in here. They're in the queue. They're waiting. And some of them have had a little bit more work done than others. But some of it is because I discovered that I have absolutely 3 different copies of Balthasar, but I want them to look somewhat cohesive and similar. So until I'm ready to do all 3, they all get to be on the shelf. And that's it. Well, okay, to be honest, I do have 1 tub of some markers for Dreadball that I started painting, and I just need to do some weathering on and paint some of the crates, and it'll be done. But yeah, but that's it. That's the whole pile of shame. Everything else on here I view as opportunity, things that I will get to paint, and I'm not ashamed of it, because eventually one of these days I will have the fun of painting all of these things. So when it comes to burnout, I'm not really burnt out. That's not it. That's not why this stuff isn't getting done. If there was ever anything that I hated with mini painting, or what would cause me burnout, it's very simple. I hate the removal of mold lines, and I hate I hate the assembly's not so bad, but I hate the priming and prepping, like all of that work. Especially, I used to rattle can all of these. And the thing about doing that was you had to have them all prepped. And so I used to take the month of August off because weather conditions had to be just right. And you can see a couple of tubs here. And that one's actually got, but like this guy and this guy down here. You know, some of these in here. These are all models that are prepped. They're primed. They're ready to go. All the mold lines removed. You probably on here like this guy, which I know I have the back too. It's kind of a cool model. It's a pigapult. It's a catapult launching a giant pig, or even like this knight. These are figures that I prepped them in advance during August. Same with this bear raider, so that I could paint when I had time. But I can tell you that August was a slog, so I saved it up. I did all of it during a month, so that then for the rest of the year, the other 11 months, I could do it. So if I'm burnt out on anything, it's that. But I'm not really burnt out. So why? Why is it that models don't get done? Why is it that I'm not always here at the table? And why has there been a shortage of Howard's Game of Wonder? Well, I can address it in a couple of things. Part of it, and part of the slow progress was I was gone for 3 months. I was away from my painting desk. I was out in Medora covering one of my historic sites. And because of that, no painting happened. Any hobbying that I worked on is actually, you can see them here. It's a pair of resin cast trade rifles that I'm working on finishing for a hands-on program. And I sat and I sanded the mold lines off of it. I now need to go in with green stuff and fill some holes and touch up some details on it. And I just haven't had the time yet to do that. But that's my next step on that. But that's what I did while I was in Medora. I worked on prepping that and getting some things. I got some actual brass tacks that I'm going to take and put into those. So that's one reason, bigger projects. But the biggest kind of thing with it that I think slowed me down was Howard's Cave of Wonder and the mindset that it put me in. I found myself in a mindset of, if I was going to do any hobbying, maybe it's a Howard's Cave of Wonder. I need to film it. I need to have it captured, and I need to have that content. And there have been a number of videos that I've started because I'm like, oh, Howard's Cave of Wonder. And then I get to a point where I'm just like, I just want to complete my hobby. I just want to do the thing that I love. And I don't want to worry about lights. I don't want to worry about cameras. I don't want to worry sound. And you might go, you really haven't worried about that. You're right. This is a phone on a little stick that I can move around as I like. And I'm sorry if some of the camera angles haven't been the best. I'm doing this quickly. But the truth is, because I was so worried about everything's got to be for Howard's Cave of Wonder, I stopped. And I felt guilty about some of that too. I felt like, oh, I can't do anything unless I'm making content. And so I finally just recently got over that. Going through some health issues and some mental health issues with that, and decided I needed to get back to the things that bring me joy. So I need to stop worrying about the video that I started about the rearrangement of the cave. In fact, you might have noticed as we went through, the cave has changed. Yeah, that happened. And I started recording that, and you're probably seeing it now as I'm talking, at least some of the video. I just could not finish it because I wanted to get that project done so I could move on with things. And that's kind of where I'm at. And that's kind of where Howard's Cave of Wonder is at. I'm still painting things. You can see them on my painting desk. And I'm still making progress. And that's all part of me focusing in on what makes me happy. I started the painting miniatures because I thought it'd be interesting, and came to discover that it is the greatest stress relief I have ever found. And it's a mindset, and the feeling of it is amazing. I can sit, and I used to before I had kids. If my wife worked the weekend, I spent the whole weekend down here. Like, I would do any chores and such I need, but I'd spend the whole weekend here in my cave painting. And just put something up on the TV, some YouTube or something like that, and I would just paint for like 8 hours at a time. My longest streak is about 22 hours painting straight, which is a story for another time. So for me, I think the thing about it is I view this hobby differently. Where some people are doing it for games, some people are painting for competition, some people are painting for content generation. And the thing about it is, if you're doing that, yeah, you're going to get burnt out. If I had to turn around a miniature every week and have it filmed and have it look good and make sure that it's got a catchy thumbnail and I'm putting it out there and I'm getting the views, I'd get far less done. And I have gotten far less done. In fact, here's a fun fact for you. I'm going to. So up here on my shelf, these are a good chunk of the miniatures I've painted over the years and such. And I just can't keep up. These are the 2 I have done this year. That's right. 2 out of the entire year. That's my 2023 production, and I did most of that in the last month of the year. Now, I did do some terrain. There's some barricades up there and such, but the majority of it I've done only recently, and it's as I'm kind of getting back into the hobby. So here's my thing, and it might be a piece of advice, but if you're finding burnout with the hobby, maybe, just maybe you need to look at it and go, why? And think about, is there something I'm doing that slows me down? Is there something that makes this process tedious? You know, you can get into being perfection mode and spend, 20, 50 hours on the model. At some point, I try to look at every model and go, done. I'm happy with it. It may not be perfect, but I can live with it. So, anyway, that's enough of me waxing poetical. I hope to do a little bit more of Howard's Cave of Wonder. Been in talks with Kidder about maybe trying to figure out how to stream my painting and get a setup to do that, so that instead of me having to worry about lights and cameras and angles and all of that, I can get a setup going and figured out and do that. And it's a setup and go, and it's far less of me worrying about the post-production side of it. What do you think? Share some of your comments down below. Do you ever get hobby burnout? What do you do to get over it? And hey, maybe what other things you'd like to see me do or not do? Or would you care if I streamed? I don't know. All these questions. But I thank you for tuning in. Thanks for joining me as I wax poetical on this Sunday night. And I hope that you all find good times and tidings and hobbies. If you want to see more, please go check out beerbluesnbs.com. That is our home in cyberspace. On YouTube, you can find all of the old Howard's Cave of Wonders. There's some great project videos in there. I hope that some of you will find some interest in, because I include all my failures as much as I include my successes, so enjoy that. And hopefully, you'll see some more Howard's Cave of Wonder as 2024 rolls on. Hope you all have a great evening. Bye.